And love family, it's your girl, Six the Goddess. And keep in mind, I'm a goddess and I'm sensitive about my shift. So I wanted to make this quick video because this is a fairly new concept that's kind of going around. A lot of people don't really know what it is yet. There hasn't been that many conversations about it, but I feel like it's something that needs to become a thing and needs to begin to be a discussion. Now, that is the concept of being a foundational Black American. Now, I'm going to explain the backstory on this before I get into today's video. Um, when I first came across the concepts of FBA, I didn't really understand what it meant. And so I had heard about it, but I kind of just kept going on about my business. I didn't really pay much attention to it, again, because I didn't really understand it. I think it's a very layered concept, and I didn't think that much of it. I did not begin to become very curious about this concept until I started seeing how many people had a major problem with it. And I know that normally the way it goes in society with the status quo is whenever you have a lot of people, having an issue with something, normally that's when you need to go look at it and really see what's going on. So I did not really research the concept of being a foundational Black American until I saw how mad it made so many people. And I'm like, okay, anything that initiates this much emotion out of people, it has to mean something. Something about it is moving people in some way. So I began to explore the concept. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am from Philadelphia originally, but I was raised in Florida for majority of my life. I consider myself a Florida girl. Florida is the culture that shaped me into who I am. That's where I went to high school, went to trade school. Like, I consider myself a Florida girl, even though I currently now reside in Atlanta. Now, growing up in Florida, Black people all together, at least for like the young people, we have a lot of Haitians, a lot of Jamaicans, a lot of Afro Latinos, a lot of Black Cubans, Black Dominicans, a lot of Africans. When you grow up in Florida, it's mostly a Caribbean influence. All of my best friends growing up were either Jamaican or Haitian, and that's just what it was. It wasn't odd. We didn't necessarily notice or necessarily pay attention to our differences culturally. If anything, foundational Black American culture in Florida can get watered down by other cultures like Jamaican and Haitian cultures because there's so many people from there. To where when you're growing up in Florida, Jamaican culture, Haitian culture, that's what you see everywhere. Everywhere you go, it's Jamaican restaurants, Haitian restaurants. Like, that became a thing. And then it was like those of us who were Black Americans, like, people would come to you and be like, so what are you? And you would be like, what do you mean, what am I? And they'd be like, what are you? And you'll be like, I'm from Philly. I'm from Florida. And I remember they would kind of like turn their nose up like, oh. So meanwhile, they had a lot of pride in where they're from. The Haitians always let you know they were Haitian. Okay, they're going to have a Haitian flag on their car, a Haitian flag somewhere. They're going to sac passe, not boule you to death. Same with the Jamaicans. They would have carnival out there with their flags, and they would really make it seem as though they had a culture and we did not. This is how a lot of us grew up. And you internalize that and you begin to feel like, you know what? Yeah, I don't have my own culture. I would go as far to say as you begin to feel envious of them. Like, wow, I wish I had a culture to connect to. And I wish that I had a flag. You begin to feel that way. I remember times where I would wear a Haitian flag or wear a Jamaican flag because I used to feel like if I am a Black woman, which I am, I can wear any flag from any country that is predominantly Black, and we could just represent it all, and all lives matter, and that kind of concept. I would have, if I wore a Jamaican flag, a Haitian flag, one time I had a Kenyan flag, one time I had a Nigerian flag. I love to go to like Caribbean festivals, African festivals. When I go out, I like to represent the culture. I would have people from that culture ask me like, you have on a Haitian flag, are you Haitian? I'd be like, no, I'm just representing, I'm just having fun. They would get upset, like, no. Why you got that Haitian flag going and you not Haitian? If I had a Nigerian flag, they like, what part of Nigeria are you from? where you from? I'd be like, I'm not from there. I'm just here to appreciate the culture, have a good time. They have flags for sale. I wonder what they would get upset. Whenever you would speak on yourself as being African, people that were actually born and raised in the continent would dead ass come to you and be like, "You not African. What part of Africa you from?" And for years, Black Americans would fight to be accepted as African. And the truth is that was never happening, because even African people from the continent, even when they birth their own children in America, the people back home will still look at them as though they're not African. They're like, "No, you were born in America, you were raised in America, you're not really African or Nigerian or whatever you want." African people would often come to me, and again, I'm speaking off of my personal experience. I never had an African person just be like, "Oh yeah, welcome on into the culture." They always were the gatekeepers of their own cultures, from the food to their visual representations, like their flags. Don't let you be American trying to cook something from Ghana or something from, they're like, "Oh, you ain't used the right directions." Like, the Africans have no problem letting you know that you are not African and gatekeeping their culture and the way things are supposed to be done. This went on for a long time. I believed at one point that that concept would be ideal of we're all one people, we're all Black people, okay? Growing up, a lot of the non-foundational American people that I hung around, since most of them were first generation here in the United States, we all were on the same page when it came to things like racism, police brutality. Like, they were from here, so it wasn't this like lack mindset of "I'm just happy to be here." And we never had the issue between FBA and non-FBA, because no one where I'm from was on that BS. But I also understand I am from Florida, where, it is very, Florida is a certain way when it comes to racism and stuff like that. It's hard to deny it exists when you're from Florida. I'll just put it that way. Now, it wasn't until my adult life where I started to pay attention to these patterns. I began to pay attention to the fact of, wow, I internalized that, yeah, Black Americans don't have a culture. How many times do we hear that? We hear that all the time. There are many aspects of culture, like things you wear, where you wear your hair, music, food. There are so many components to culture. And for so long, we as Black Americans have been told that we don't have any. Now, the concept of foundational Black American, in my opinion, I don't understand the pushback. Whenever a concept is new to you and you're presented with new information that may conflict with previous information you were giving, it is okay to evaluate the new information and kind of scan it over and say, okay, how does this interact with my previous knowledge? What changed? What makes sense more? And it's okay to say, due to this new information, I may need to embrace a new concept, or I may need to see things a different way. So I stayed open-minded when I was able to sit down and really talk and investigate the concept of foundational Black American. It was like so eye-opening to me, because I felt like, oh my God, it is the truth. I don't understand all the emotional aspect behind it. That part kind of confuses me. Whenever I'm given a concept that might be new to me, I always ask myself, what about this concept is harmful? You see what I'm saying? Like, before I get upset about something, I like to say, okay, is there anything, what is the bad that this could cause? Like, this new concept that may make me uncomfortable, what negativity could come from this? When I look at foundational Black Americans kind of roping off our own lineage and our own culture, how every other culture in the world does so, I don't see why that's a problem. When I see people who are not FBA have an issue with it, it gives very much so like human behavior. Like, for example, if you are a yes man or a people pleaser, people do not appreciate you. When you're a yes man, people pleaser, always wanting people's acceptance, wanting to do for people and just give of yourself, people don't see that and appreciate it. People will further take advantage of you. And I will even go so far as to say they will develop the idea that you are not allowed to set boundaries. When you sit and let someone eat off of you consistently, and you constantly give and give and give to them, and they're not returning anything back, people naturally will get upset when that giver begins to say no. when the giver and the doer begins to set a boundary. When the giver and the doer begins to say, listen, I'm stepping back, I'm not giving anymore. We have seen consistently in humans that this makes people upset. This is how I feel about white and non-FBA people having an issue with the concept of being a foundational Black American. It gives very much so, we are here on the land that your ancestors built, your ancestors developed, and we want you to continue to fight and sacrifice yourself so that we can come here and eat off your success. When foundational Black Americans who had done that for decades had been the ones where it was us sacrificing. It was our blood, sweat, and tears to make things better for us here on this land. It gives very much so, how dare you guys be over here always sacrificing for us, always letting us eat off of you, always making the way for us in this country, and now y'all want to sit and make your own lineage, make your own culture? No. So it's very weird. It gives very much so Black Americans saying they're African. It gives very much, you ain't African. You ain't even never been to Africa before. How you African? You ain't never been there. You Black Americans, you think that everybody from you think Africa is a country. It's a whole continent. Okay. So then when we say, fine, you're right. We've been here for hundreds of years. We developed this land. We speak the language. You're right. It's been 400 or 500 years. It's time to let it go, baby. Okay, it's time to let it go. You're right. It's time for us to go be independent and develop and make clear our own lineage and our own culture. And y'all still mad. I think people have to really check themselves when it comes to this concept. I see a lot of people saying that the concept of FBA is divisive, but all culture is divisive. There's always divides in culture. Okay, the Nigerians will sit and say, if you're not born there, raised there, know the language, you're not Nigerian. I think it's a projection where there is a lot of, when you are talking about Africa or Jamaica, I think that people from there are very strict on who they let claim themselves as that certain nationality. And they divide amongst themselves. That the Nigerians born and raised in Nigeria are more Nigerian than the Akata Nigerian that are now here in America. It very much so gives projection that it is you that is actually very divisive in your culture and for your nationality. And so you assume that we are also being divisive instead of us being factual. I want to also make something else clear. I know that Tariq is the one that really made this concept more mainstream and speaks about it, but he has also made it very clear that he has no desire to be the leader or gatekeeper of this concept, that foundational Black American is a lineage, that when you can trace your lineage back to the 1700s, that you by birthright claim that. I think what happens is a lot of people associate FBA with Tariq. You can feel how you want to feel about Tariq, but you cannot let that kind of cloud your mind to make you have the issue with FBA. You cannot take a person and have your personal feelings towards them for whatever reason make you feel as though an entire concept full of millions of people is a problem. Okay, I think a lot of people feel like he is divisive because he has his foot on y'all neck. And a lot of people, another part about humans is humans tend to be able to dish out certain levels of disrespect or treatment to someone else. A lot of people can't handle it when you give it back. A lot of people can dish out all day. And then when you retaliate and you're like, oh, you got me messed up, and if you come over here, it's going to be some shit. A lot of people just start to combust when that happens. And I think a lot of you don't like Tariq because every time y'all try to come at him with the energy, he come back at you with the same or more, and you just can't handle it. That's a personal problem. I also think it's weird when I see foundational Black Americans have an issue with foundational Black Americans, because from what I've researched, the only reason why some foundational Black Americans have an issue with the concept of FBA is because they feel like we will never get reparations. And I know that throughout our history as foundational Black Americans, we have always had naysay Negroes. Can you imagine hundreds of years ago when our ancestors were like picking cotton, the first guy that was like, hey, y'all, we're going to escape from this. We're not going to sit here and be picking cotton. Our great-great-grandkids are not going to be sitting here picking cotton in this heat. We need to figure out how we can escape. We need to figure out how we can stop this. You know, there was that group of Negroes back then picking their cotton like, man, shut up. You ain't never going to get free from picking this cotton. You better just pick it and be quiet. Y'all crazy. Y'all over here thinking you going to actually get free from picking cotton. You're delusional. You know it's always a group of naysay Negroes in any group, okay? This is what's happening now with the concept of reparations. Could reparations take a long time to be given? It could. Could it happen? Could it never happen? Nothing in life is guaranteed. I don't know. But it's so odd to me you would also benefit from these reparations. You're also owed it. And you have such a defeated mindset and such a negative mindset that you feel like it's never going to happen. So you discourage the entire movement. I think that's weird. Now, me personally, no, I'm not going to be at the White House with a sign talking about give us reparations. However, am I going to outwardly oppose it? Am I going to complain about it? Absolutely not. There is no time up on disrespect. If our ancestors from 4 or 5 generations literally built and developed all of this land, think about it for yourself. If I owe you money today, because 50 years go by, are you going to say, oh, it's been 50 years. Don't worry about the money you owe me. No, I want what you owe me, whether it is today, 50 years from now, 5,000 years from now. Whatever dollar amount it is, I want it. So I don't understand why it's that hard to understand the concept of reparations. No, everyone does not get reparations. If you are the descendants of the people who built this land and they never got paid, and people are still benefiting from their work today, you need to get paid. There is no statute of limitations on being owed money. Y'all crazy. It gives very much so self-hatred. It very much so gives defeatist. Now, the next aspect of this that just is a thing and has to be acknowledged is how people that are not from here speak about the people that are. I want to make this very clear. You borderline have some Jamaicans or some Nigerians who their parents may be from Jamaica or Nigeria, but they're born here. They've been here most of their lives. You borderline have it be a thing in their group where they can't even speak on certain politics and government from where they're from, because even their own people will be like, you didn't even get raised there. You wasn't even there like that. How do you know? Okay. Me as a Black American, I cannot go to Jamaica. I cannot go to Ghana, live there for 10, 15 years, get a job there for a few years, and then discredit the generational experience of the people who have lived there and invested there for a majority of their lives. It does not work that way. The problem I have with people who are not Black Americans that come here and try to discredit our generational experience is a problem for me. I would get cussed out 10 types of ways if I ever went across that pond, went to Nigeria and told them people, what you've been experiencing for decades and generations, you're not really experiencing it. It's not really real. And I've been living here for 10 years and I got a job here. So I can tell you that your experience is not correct and I can discredit what you're saying. Even though I have not invested here generationally, it's not my ancestors that helped build or contribute to this land. I've been here a few years. I can't walk up in your country and discredit you. The consistent generational experience of those that built and invested in that land will always be respected as the reality versus someone who came there and set up shop and just brought their toothbrush. The United States of America is one of the few, if not only, countries in this world where our people at one point were enslaved and we fought, freed ourselves, and then we continued to live and grow economically, socially on that same land. You have countries like Haiti that did fight and they did gain their independence, but then they began to fail. But then they starved. This is one of the few, if not only, countries where our people fought. They did not leave. They did not go to somewhere else. They stayed here. They fought. And we're able to still live here and be pretty much doing the best of any group of Black cultures in the diaspora. That's a big deal. Okay, that's GOAT level. Back where I'm from in Pennsylvania, there are homes, buildings there that my grandfather literally built. Like, you can go to the state, there are certain addresses, and go here, and my grandfather literally built that. My mother's father. My dad is a jazz musician from North Carolina. My dad has contributed so much to the foundational Black American culture of jazz, blues, and soul music. My mother is an artist. You can still go certain places in Philadelphia today and see murals that she painted. I had to say, why am I trying so hard to fit into a group of accept me as African, when I literally come from the people who built this land? I think it's disrespectful for people to not be from here and to come here where it's good at and call us at our name, call us lazy, this, that, and the third. I also understand the way psychology works. And when we talk about Africa, when we talk about the Caribbean islands, they love to show you like the urban areas, the developed areas, but the truth is majority of that continent is not urban. Majority of the continent is not developed. Majority of the continent does not have 24-hour electricity. Majority of the continent does not have plumbing. Majority of the continent does not live in these big city urban areas. So I understand that this is how white supremacy that's the real thing that keeps us divided. Because they extort and take your land for everything they have. They build their wealth off of it. They leave you with nothing. Then from diapers, they send in white missionaries toting Bibles and your basic needs. I understand how it can kind of mess with your brain if from a wee lad, everything you've been given for your basic survival has been given to you by somebody white. I understand what that does to your mind. You're in this rural area. You don't have your basic needs. Here go the missionaries with Jesus, Bibles, food, water. So it's disrespectful to me when so many people from there who grew up that way come here and have the attitude of a breadcrumb mentality, like a lack mindset of, I'm just so happy to be here and not have to fight for my basic needs anymore that I am going to ignore serious problems. I think it's disrespectful to come from where you came from, leave there, come here where our ancestors have fought to make things a certain way for us, and then call us lazy. Like, can you imagine building a house with your own bare hands? You build the house, you're hammering the nails, getting the wood in, you paint, you finish. You fall out on the ground, you're exhausted from building everything, and then somebody walks in, like sets their toothbrush and their suitcase down, and then says, why are you so tired? You're lazy. And it's like, oh, really? Are we really? So I don't understand why people who are not from here can't just say, we respect the sacrifices your ancestors made so that we all could come here and eat. And I'm not saying all non-Black Americans do that, not all non-FBA Americans do this, but too many do. Where you come into our land, talk bad about our ancestors. I saw a Nigerian guy refer to Harriet Tubman as a fat black bee who never did anything for anyone. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is, why do you have to come in and be disrespectful? Why do you have to come in here and discredit our experience? We did not get to where we are today by just sitting down, shutting up, and being happy with whatever breadcrumbs we're giving and dealing with it. We got where we are today by saying, no, we can do better. We deserve better, creating a plan and executing it. I don't see the big deal. I think it's weird that so many people take an issue with it. Like, y'all don't want to see us have anything or what? It's also the other part of the reality is that we open up our doors to everyone here, but we contribute to you. We support, y'all come here, we support your businesses. We open you to everything that we have. And the true reality is we don't get that same thing in return. We simply don't. We are not moving to African and Caribbean countries in droves and calling them lazy, telling them how it really is on their land and having them help us economically. I cannot go to a country in Africa and be doing better there than I'm doing here. So you haven't put in the same level of work and gotten the same results that we have. So this relationship is officially one-sided. Most grown people, you've been in a relationship like that before, a one-sided relationship where you're giving, you're being loyal, you're being faithful, you're being loving, and that person is just taking and they're not giving it back. At some point, that person has to come forward and say, I'm sorry, but this is one-sided. I cannot do this anymore. And more times than not, when that person comes forward and says, I cannot do this, the taker will get upset. Because it's like, how come you all of a sudden have standards and have boundaries? I think foundational Black Americans should have made this move a long time ago. And the motto is, we love all our people are welcome. I love the cultures of all of our people. However, you need to show respect. You need to give us the homage that we have earned. And you don't need to bring what did not work in your country and bring it here. Do not come over here feeling like you're just happy to have power 24 hours and you're just happy to have running water, that we should just shut up, not complain, act like racism and white supremacy doesn't exist. Don't bring that attitude here. That is not the way of the FBA, and that is not how we got where we are. You cannot be that Negro. You make you a few dollars. Now you want to discredit everyone's experience because you've gotten what you wanted. Okay? Me, I love all my people. I welcome love and relationships with all my people. I just ask that we're given the same respect that we give others. If Black Americans cannot go to any non-FBA countries and smear our unearned opinion all over you, we ask you don't do the same. The truth is, as FBA, we do have a culture. I don't understand how people in Trinidad dress in a bunch of feathers and glitter and music dancing around is culture, but step music for the Midwest is not culture. Stick and ride music from Florida is not real culture. Crip walking from the West Coast is not real culture. Jazz and blues is not real culture. Even us, as our culture as FBA Black women, like big hoop earrings, like bamboo earrings, like baby hairs, like lashes, like certain style of nails. Like, this is FBA women culture. So we don't credit ourselves enough as Black Americans. We do have culture here. Okay. We have tons of it. Different foods that we cook. It is our culture. It is time for the people that are FBA to step up. Don't die on that hill. We may have been there before where it's all we are one, but it's time for you to get smart and realize what is going on here. Look at these past few years of consistent patterns and behaviors and educate yourself and realize what's really going on here. I love all my people. I want all my people to win. I want all my people to be supported. But I also want to take the steps to go ahead and recognize my culture as a foundational Black American, and for my children and for their children, so we can also have a pride in where we're from and land we developed. The way this has always worked in history is people have always migrated to different land masses. When a whole group of people migrates to a land mass and they're there for hundreds of years and they develop the land, develop a culture there, that becomes their new lineage. It's not saying you can move somewhere and in one generation is considered a lineage, but for us, like foundational Black Americans, no part of cultures in Africa, the continent of Africa, nothing of the Caribbean culture, we did not consume that growing up. That's not where we're from. So even though we have respect that we have derived, our derivative is from Africa, Africa has not affected us or contributed to us in any way. That's just the reality of what it is. So it's okay to say, okay, so we've been here for X amount of time. We have developed this land. That is your new lineage. So it's time for us to be proud of where we're from, just like everybody else can be proud. Get an understanding and get a certain level of respect. So I ask you again, why does everybody have a problem with FBA? FBA is your line in the sand. FBA went ahead and gatekeeped our own lineage, and now everybody mad, But I say, we keep doing what we doing, support one another. If you understand and you with it, cool. If you not, that's cool too. Shout out to the FBA sisters. Shout out to the FBA brothers. I love you all very much. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the concept of FBA? Are you able to put your emotions aside and look at the facts on what this is? Let me know. Like the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Peace.